He had been sleeping for 72 years in a junkyard. A 78-year-old man found him in the forests of Vermont, and the note inside the door changed everything. Harold Peterson held a cup of lukewarm coffee as he watched the October rain hit the window of his small house in Stowe, Vermont. At 78, his mornings were always the same. Coffee, newspaper, silence. The kind of silence only someone who has lost a wife after 52 years of marriage understands. Margaret had passed 3 years earlier, taking with her not only the love of his life, but also the dreams they had built together. Among those dreams was a 1953 Chevrolet Corvette, the model's first production year. Margaret always joked, "When you retire, Harold, we're going to buy that dream car of yours and travel across the country." But retirement came too late, and Margaret left before they could fulfill that dream. On that rainy Tuesday morning, Harold decided to do something different. For weeks, a neighbor had mentioned old abandoned cars on the former Whitman property, a farm that had sat empty for decades, swallowed by the dense Vermont forest. "Just curiosity," he muttered to himself, pulling on his coat and grabbing his pickup keys. He had nothing better to do anyway. The Whitman property was 20 minutes away down a dirt road that twisted between towering pines and maples with golden leaves. Harold parked near what remained of the main house, nothing but a rotting wooden structure overtaken by ivy and decades of neglect. The air smelled of wet leaves and forgotten history. He began to walk around, stepping carefully over fallen branches and moss-covered stones. That's when he saw it. Partially hidden beneath a torn military green tarp, buried under decades of branches and leaves, was the unmistakable silhouette of a sports car. Harold felt his heart race. His hands trembled slightly as he began to remove the branches, a sensation he hadn't felt since Margaret passed. With each branch removed, more details appeared. A chrome bumper, round headlights, and then, when he pulled the tarp away completely, a 1953 Chevrolet Corvette, white as Vermont's first snow, exactly like the one in his dreams. Harold stood still for long minutes, just staring. It couldn't be real. It was as if Margaret had conspired with the universe to send him this impossible gift. The car was in surprisingly good condition for something abandoned for so long. The paint, though dull, still held its original tone. The tires, miraculously, weren't completely deformed. Harold circled the vehicle like someone circling a sacred altar. When he tried to open the driver's door, he noticed something odd. There was a yellowed, moisture-stained envelope wedged between the door and the rubber seal. Carefully, Harold removed it. On the envelope, written in faded cursive, were the words, "To whoever finds this car." Harold opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a handwritten letter on paper that had seen better days. The date at the top made his stomach tighten. June 15th, 1953. "My name is Thomas Whitman," the letter began. "Today I bought this Corvette for my wife, Eleanor, as a wedding gift. She always dreamed of owning a sports car, said she wanted to feel the wind in her hair and the freedom of the road. We planned to spend our honeymoon driving down the California coast. But yesterday Eleanor found out she's sick. Very sick. The doctors say she has little time." Harold had to stop reading for a moment. The similarity to his own story was both painful and beautiful. "Eleanor insisted I return the car," the letter continued. "She said it would be a waste to keep it if she couldn't enjoy it. But I couldn't do it. This car represents all the dreams we had together, all the trips we planned, all the sunsets we wanted to see. So I decided to hide it here on our property. Maybe someday, when the pain fades, I'll have the courage to drive it alone. Or maybe someday, someone will find it and give it the love and adventure Eleanor and I never could." Harold's hands were visibly shaking now. He kept reading. "If you're reading this letter, it means Thomas and Eleanor Whitman have long since passed. It means this car has waited patiently for someone who can love it the way we did. The key is hidden behind the passenger side sun visor. The car is yours now. But I ask only one thing. Don't let it sit still. Eleanor always said a car is like a dream. It needs to be lived, not stored. Drive it. Feel the wind on your face. Watch the sunsets. Live the adventures we never could. The letter ended with a line that made Harold cry for the first time since Margaret's funeral. True love never dies. It only waits for a new way to express itself. Harold folded the letter carefully and placed it in his pocket. With trembling hands, he opened the Corvette's door and reached behind the passenger sun visor. There was the key, just as promised. A simple metal key, rusted by time but still functional. Over the next few weeks, Harold worked on the Corvette with an energy he hadn't felt in years. He brought in mechanics, replaced parts, restored the interior. Every day felt as though he wasn't just restoring a car, he was resurrecting dreams. His, Margaret's, Thomas's, and Eleanor's. The work gave him purpose again. For the first time in 3 years, Harold woke up excited for the day. The car was ready on a sunny Thursday in November. Harold drove it slowly down Stowe's main road, feeling the V8 engine purr softly. People stopped to look. Children waved. He felt young again, as if time had rewound and Margaret were sitting beside him, laughing and telling him to go a little faster. That night, Harold called his son David, who lived in California. "David," he said, "I'm thinking about taking a trip, a long one." David was concerned. Harold hadn't left the state in years. "Where to, Dad?" "To the California coast. I want to drive along Highway 1, watch the sunset over the ocean. Your mother always wanted to do that." There was silence on the other end. "Dad, are you sure? Driving alone at your age?" "I won't be alone," Harold interrupted. "I'm taking with me every person I ever loved who loved me back." Harold left on a Monday in December, driving the white 1953 Corvette westward. In the glove compartment, he placed a photo of Margaret along with Thomas Whitman's letter. During the trip, he stopped in small towns, ate at local diners, slept in simple motels. At every stop, people came over to admire the car, and Harold told the story about Thomas and Eleanor, about Margaret, about dreams that wait decades to be fulfilled. On the third day, in a small Colorado town, Harold stopped for gas. The attendant, a young man of about 20, looked at the Corvette in awe. "Amazing car, sir. Must have quite a story." Harold smiled. "It does, and it's still being written." The young man asked if Harold was traveling alone. "No," Harold replied, glancing at Margaret's photo on the passenger seat. "I'm carrying 52 years of marriage, 60 years of friendship, and the dream of 2 people who never got to live it. This car carries more love than any vehicle has the right to carry." When Harold finally reached California's Highway 1, it was 4 o'clock on a sunny Thursday. He parked at an overlook facing the Pacific Ocean and stayed there for hours, just watching the waves and feeling the salty breeze. For the first time since Margaret passed, Harold felt whole, not because the pain was gone, but because he had found a way to carry it without letting it crush him. That night, Harold called David again. "Son, I reached the ocean." "How was the trip, Dad?" "It was healing. I understood something important. Dreams don't die with the people who dreamed them. They wait for someone brave enough to live them." David was quiet for a moment. "Dad, you sound different." "That's because I am different. I learned that we honor the ones we love not just by keeping their memories, but by living the dreams they couldn't." Harold spent a week in California, driving along the coast, visiting small towns, meeting people. Every mile was a prayer, every sunset a toast to Margaret, to Thomas and Eleanor, and to all dreams worth living, even when they arrive late. On the way back to Vermont, Harold made a special stop. He returned to the old Whitman property, now knowing much more about its history. He researched local archives and found that Thomas had died in 1967 and Eleanor in 1953, just 3 months after they bought the Corvette. They were buried in a small town cemetery. Harold visited their grave and placed a white rose on the headstone. "Thomas, Eleanor," he said softly, "your car finally found the road. It finally felt the wind. It finally saw the sunsets you dreamed of seeing. And I want you to know that every mile was driven with love. Your love, mine, Margaret's. True dreams never die. They only wait for the right person to bring them to life." Back home in Stowe, Harold did something nobody expected. He placed an ad in the local newspaper. 1953, Corvette seeks dreamer, not selling, passing it on. If you have a dream you never fulfilled, if you lost someone you loved and think it's too late to be happy, this car is for you. Come tell me your story. Dozens of people showed up. Harold spoke to each one, listening to their stories, their postponed dreams, their grief. He finally chose Sarah, a 45-year-old nurse who had lost her husband in an accident and had always dreamed of driving across the country visiting national parks. My husband used to say that when we retired, we would visit every national park in the United States, she said, tears in her eyes. But he died at 48, and I thought that dream had died with him. Harold handed her the keys along with the original letter from Thomas Whitman and a new letter he had written himself. This car has a mission, he said. It exists to fulfill delayed dreams, to heal broken hearts, to prove that it's never too late to be happy. When you finish your journey, pass it on to someone who needs it. 6 months later, Harold received a postcard from Sarah, sent from the Grand Canyon. Harold, she wrote, I'm at my 10th national park. The Corvette drives like a dream, and I've never felt more alive. My husband would be proud. Thomas and Eleanor would be proud. Margaret would be proud. Thank you for teaching me that dreams are bigger than the people who dream them. Harold placed the postcard in a special drawer, along with Thomas Whitman's letter and the photos from his trip to California. At 79, he had learned the most important lesson of his life. True love is not something we store away. It's something we share. Dreams are not private property. They are humanity's inheritance. Every morning, Harold still drinks his coffee while watching the Vermont rain, but now his silence is different. No longer the silence of emptiness, but the silence of peace. Because he knows that somewhere on the American road, a white 1953 Corvette continues fulfilling dreams, carrying love stories, proving that some things are too big to die. And whenever Harold feels lonely, he remembers the words Thomas Whitman wrote 70 years earlier. True love never dies. It only waits for a new way to express itself. If this story touched your heart, maybe it's because you too have a dream waiting to be lived. Maybe it's because you've also lost someone and think it's too late to be happy. Remember, it's never too late to honor the ones we love by living the dreams they inspired us to dream. Do you believe dreams are bigger than the people who dream them? Leave a comment telling which dream you would like to fulfill. And if this story reminded you of someone special, share this video with them. Sometimes a story is all we need to remember that dreaming is still worth it.